Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of P.I.P People in Property. Thank you very much for watching the episode so far, and before we get into it I just want to say don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. 70% of our audience are unsubscribed, so you won't be informed on when the next episode released, and we have some serious guests lined up for you. Today we have a good friend of mine, Steve Doran, who is an ex-firefighter and a property investor, also is a property coach and mentor. How are you, mate?
I'm absolutely fantastic, and I have to warn you, I'm only getting better as the day goes on. So,
brilliant.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming off your trip from Spain. You're looking nice and tanned. I'm feeling a bit jealous, I must say. We need to head out on a little trip as well. But again, thank you for coming. Thank you for taking your time out of the day. I know you're super busy and you've got a lot going on. So tell us a bit about how your sort of come up came and, you left being a firefighter because you love helping people and all that stuff. So you was a fireman before. Obviously, you'll still help people in a different way now, but tell us a little bit about your journey.
So for me, I was a firefighter in another life, it feels like now. So back in 2004, I was in the fire brigade as a youngster, and it was all right, but it was never going to make me wealthy. So having not grown up with much, I was quite determined to create some wealth in my life. And we all know that property is safe as houses. So I decided that I really wanted to get involved in property. But the problem I had was I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So I did like that really old school approach, which was if you want more money, you have to work more hours. So in the fire brigade, you'd work 4 days and then you'd have 4 days off. But on the 4 days off, you're always working your other jobs. So I used to do quite physical labor. When I was on night shifts in the fire brigade, I'd do like physical labor in the daytime, fire brigade in the nighttime, physical labor in the daytime. Eventually I got my little deposit together, and then 17 years ago I bought my first flat in Lee Green.
Congratulations on that, by the way. First milestone in life.
Yeah, first little tick. And then I did the same again, got another deposit together, another property, did the same again, another deposit, another property, and I didn't become wealthy at all. I just became the average landlord. I think the average landlord now in the UK is earning 17,200 before tax a year, which I don't know about you, but you can't retire on that.
No,
so I was still working, and I just realised if I wanted something different, I had to do something different. That's when I went and got educated in property, started doing different strategies. And then the first, I'd say, real strategy that I did was HMO. First HMO I bought was in 2009. Which wasn't the best HMO in the world, but it was a start on the journey. And then over the years, I've sort of refined that and improved that and kept educating myself. Even now, I don't consider myself a teacher. I consider myself a full-time student that occasionally teaches.
Okay.
Because this, as you know, this subject is vast.
Yeah.
It never ends. It never, ever ends. So that's my journey. I mean, I was just quite keen to get out of the fire brigade. For me, the fire brigade was a great job that I enjoyed. I actually didn't dislike my job. I know a lot of people want to get out of the rat race. Yeah. For me, I like the people I worked with. I like the work I did. I like the people I did it for. But it was never going to make me financially free. It was never going to give me what I wanted. We were putting ourselves in danger, but we weren't getting financially rewarded for it. And I had a conversation with a colleague once because he could see I was working really hard. I was desperate to become successful and financially wealthy. And he said, Steve, you do realise that this job makes you a millionaire? I was like, what do you mean? And he went, well, if you think about it, you're going to be here for over 30 years. You're on like 32 grand a year. So over that time, in the next 3 decades, you're going to earn £1 million. And out of respect, I didn't say anything.
Well, that's one way to see it, but that's the kind of millionaire you was looking to be.
No, wasn't my plans. Out of respect, I didn't say anything, but because he's an older guy and he was genuinely trying to inspire me. But in my head, that was just a moment when I was like, I need to do something different. Yeah. I don't want my £1 million spread over the next 30 years.
That's when the penny really dropped, isn't it? When like, I'm not really.
It was just that moment where I was like, need to do something different. Yeah. So, and that's why I just went all in on the property journey. Yeah. Really.
So you started off buying standard buy-to-lets. Yeah. From what I understand. You bought a couple.
Yeah, bought a few buy-to-lets to start off with. Yeah.
Did you do anything different from like the normal sort of standard process of buying a buy-to-let and then just renting it out straight away? Is that what you did?
I didn't know what I was doing, so I didn't even, I just did no analysis.
Okay.
I literally bought a property because it was on the market. Yeah. And then I would just rent it out. to one of my mates
Yeah.
below market value. And everything I was doing in hindsight is quite cringy and diabolical.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really bad. Like what I was, because this is prior to having any guidance or education. I just knew that I had to get into property.
Yeah.
I really just did not know what I was doing for those first few years back then. But
Well, at least you made the jump and you got
Yeah.
into property, because most people will just think about it and not take the action, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's all about having your plan, putting the pen to paper, writing your plan down, and then taking the action. Whereas most people just think about it, say, yeah, I want to do this, and I never end up doing it. So you started off with the right foot forward, although it might not have been the best strategy. You've developed over the years. So you bought your standard buy-to-lets, which was your foot through the door. And most people stop at one. I think, you know what, I've made it. I've got one buy-to-let. You know, I'm a landlord now, but you got a couple going. Have you retained those till this date, or have you started to release some and to do different projects? Or
those the ones that I bought in those first few years are all gone. The last one I actually sold 2 years ago. That was the first one I ever bought.
Okay.
And I had to finally let go of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still the buy-to-let's still a reasonable strategy.
Yep.
And even though we're in interesting times with everything that's going on in that
The interest rates. Yeah.
Section 24 and all these other things that are going on, I think the terrain's changing a little bit, but the demand's still extremely high, higher than unprecedented levels of demand. But for me, I'm looking at, I've got three rules in property.
Yeah.
So if you want to be, I think you've got 3 golden opportunities.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do every one of them every time, but the more you can do them, the better you're going to perform. I.e., number 1, try and buy things below market value. So back in the day, I didn't do that. I was just, that's the price. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So try and get something below market value. Number 2, if you can add value to something, then that's another opportunity in property. Number 3 is to get the highest return per square foot for the property. Now, buy to let, probably not going to be the highest return per square foot. This is where your HMOs, your service accommodation, those sort of strategies come in. And that's what drew me over to that direction. As soon as I started thinking like that, I sort of moved in that way a bit more sort of BRR, bit more service accommodation, HMOs. Like, how can I get more money back from this same capital?
From the asset. Yeah. So it's good what you're saying, actually, because just touching base on what you said, you know, you sort of had to let it go. Some people get attached to their asset and say, oh, it's my baby, it's the first one I bought, or, you know, I've had this for X amount of time, you know, it's been 5 years or 10 years, and they don't want to let it go. But over that period of time, I'm assuming you would have made some great capital growth on it. So you probably made the right decision, letting it go, drawing out the capital equity that you have made on it, and re-entering into another project.
100%. And that's one of the things, I have that conversation with a lot of students and people that I coach. They're like, okay, I'm moving out of my house, I'm going to buy another house. Should I rent my house out, or should I? And I always ask the same question, okay, how much equity is there?
Yeah.
They might say it's 100 grand. All right. If you had that 100 grand now and you didn't have that house, would you buy that house for an investment?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, sell that house.
Yeah.
Especially because with your primary residence, no capital gains tax, you're going to be able to claim your stamp on your new property. Go and look at, because what I always look at is, look at your properties, how much equity is in each one, what's the return then on your capital on each of those properties, and just start adjusting the lowest performing. So for me, when I did that, looking at buy-to-lets, I was like, these properties are bringing, I mean, the last one that I sold was unencumbered by the time I sold it. So there's no mortgage, there's a load of cash sitting there.
You could put that to use.
It was a buy-to-let, so it was terrible. Yeah, I took the cash out, did a BRR, I left literally that cash. I did a BRR and a cottage, kept it as service accommodation, took all of the cash back out.
Brilliant.
And now I've got an infinite return, and I'm just doing a flip with the same bit of cash.
You've got basically a free property out of that as property.
Exactly that. So it's using it effectively. And
again, like you said, a lot of people don't know about this. So now you've built your knowledge. You started. You've grown. You haven't had that sort of attachment to your asset, because at the end of the day, it is a business. Even if it was your home, like you say, and you've got a hell of a lot of equity in it, you've got to look at the numbers, because numbers don't lie. And when it comes to doing, you know, if you're coming into property to become wealthy, and you want to sort of make something yourself and become financially free as per se, you need to look at the numbers. And if it makes sense to sell, and you've got the perks and the pros going for it rather than all the negative elements, then let it go and move on. And that's a perfect example of what you said with the cottage, because I think I remember seeing you actually posting a few bits on social media of how it was prior when you first bought it think you might have changed the bathroom around or something like that in that one.
Yeah, we did a refurb, not a massive refurb on that one, unless you're talking about the one quite recently.
That might be the one recently.
Yeah, that's different property.
Well, look, there we go. He's got so many projects going on, guys, which is really good. So you bought the buy-to-lets. You've had them for several years. One of them was unencumbered. You've started selling them off. Sold the last one off. You've started now moving on to, you bought HMO at first, I think it was, wasn't it? Before you started doing the service accommodation.
Yeah, HMOs I did for quite a few years. For service accommodations only for the last few years.
Yeah.
HMOs, it's still probably one of my favourite strategies.
Yeah. And how do you find the HMO market? Because not a lot of people know about HMOs. HMO basically, guys, means housing of multiple occupants, where you buy one property, you split it up into rooms, and you rent them out room by room. So you could have en suites, maybe a shared kitchen. Some have kitchenettes, so there'll be like a sort of like a studio as per se. But yeah, tell us about your journey in the HMO side of things.
Yeah, I find it a bit misunderstood. So there's some misconceptions people have. They think that, I don't know, that HMO houses are just getting absolutely trashed, or that you're going to have nightmare tenants, which we just never have, because our demographic is the professional market. We have a lot of nurses, doctors, lawyers, people like that staying in the property. What they really want is affordable rent.
That's it.
In areas where it's otherwise unaffordable. So we're able to, during a housing shortage, create extra homes from one property. So we might put 5 or 6 people within one house. So it helps to solve that housing issue. It helps to generate extra cash flow for us, so that's a plus for us. It helps to offer affordable rent for them, so that's a plus for them. But I think last year there were 489,000 HMOs in the UK, so there's a lot more than people think. They still think it's a bit niche, or it's not a thing. It's a thing.
Well, that's why they brought the Article 4 into most areas, isn't it? Where you've got to get the planning permission, the consent from the council, and then get your HMO license. And people sort of have this sort of stigma towards landlords and say, "Oh, you're being greedy by trying to chop it up." But like you said, it's not being greedy. You're actually helping people.
It's a win-win.
Exactly, because people that want to save to maybe buy their own place can then afford to do that, because if they're sort of renting the whole property to themselves and having all the bills to pay with it as well, then they can't save anything. When they go and share, that risk as such, or share their whole sharing living accommodation side of things, they'll still be able to put some money aside. So rather than paying the £2,000 a month, they might be paying £900 a month, and they're putting £1,000 away. But people don't sort of look at all of those angles. But again, it also helps some people who sort of are in need. They can change their own homes into a HMO. If they're finding things to be difficult and unaffordable, they can still live there. They can rent out some rooms, get some help with it, afford to pay their mortgage at the same time as well, and essentially they'll be leaving for free as well, isn't it?
100%. Not only that, they can claim £7,500 relief on that from a rent-a-room relief. So if you're renting out rooms to lodgers in your house, you can get £7,500 tax-free off of that. So any tax-free money has got to be good money.
So the conscience side of it coming out, it's good.
But it's very knowledgeable. But it's all about win-win. And to me, I'm a big believer that in life as well as in business, everything should be a win-win. So you're producing a win for the tenant, you're providing and I take pride in providing a nice, safe, comfortable home and environment for them to live in, because people spend a lot of their lives there. So that's a serious thing.
Definitely.
And of course, it then should be a win for you as the investor as well, for creating that home, for setting up that and managing and operating that home as well. So I think HMO is a great example of a win-win strategy.
Mate, it's the getting involved that counts. Whether you've got 10% or 100%, you're still one step closer to your future goal of becoming that financial free, wealthy individual.
100%. And I'm a big believer. One of my personal values is collaboration. Yes, I believe that in order to get further, we have to collaborate with one another. So I'm really open when people approach me and say, "Look, can you invest in this? I found a good deal." Okay, cool. If it's a win-win, let's go back to that formula. Exactly. Then let's do it. So that's how I'm able to, for example, I do some investment in the north now, because I've got good people there that will look after that will run projects, that will, take that stress from me, but I can fund them and take that stress from them.
Brilliant. And again, it's always, I love collaborating as well. I mean, my business partner, Ayrton, who's the business partner of Key Property, we do a lot of stuff together, but then we also get other people involved in other projects as well. So we've got like a service accommodation side of things that we've started doing ourselves now, which is obviously another thing that you do, which we'll touch base on shortly. The Airbnb, Booking.com, VRBO, all that kind of stuff. And we brought someone on as a partner in that, so they can grow and develop.
So are you managing people, or
a bit of both? So we've got a little bit of info on that side of things. So Ed and I bought a 1-bed 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago now, and we converted it into a 2-bed. So back to adding value. So we bought it, added the value. So again, BRRR strategy, pull the money out, refinance it, a free
Switch
flat
it.
as such. And rather than sort of going to let it on the open market, you know, we said, let's give this a go. And this chap that we brought on board basically used to manage loads of service accommodation. A very nice fella. And he wanted to start sort of implementing it with us. So we said to him, you know what, we've got a property. It's empty at the moment. We'll throw the money at furnishing it, making it look pretty. You manage it and show us what you're made of as such and what you're capable of doing. And he smashed it out of the park. And we're making good money of it. So we've set up a new limited company for that now, basically. Made him a shareholder and director of that company. And he sort of runs that side of things for us. And now what we're doing is we've got 2 clients that we manage properties for on that side. And we've sort of give them a set sort of guaranteed rent every month. And then we've said to them, look, at the end of every 6 months, depending on what profit margins we've made, because we're still responsible for furnishing it, paying the bills and all that, depending on what profit margin we've made, if it's being super lucrative, we'll give you a little kickback as well. And that, you know, power signs for landlords, if they're getting their rent guaranteed, they're having it all looked after, and then they've got potential bonus every 6 months, it's a no-brainer. So that's a new strategy that we've just implemented, I think, about 6 months ago or so now. So we've got, including our own one, free on that. And we've got another one being refurbished at the moment that the landlord's going to do a full refurb on, and then we'll go in, furnish it, because we've got obviously the strategy of what we use now. And in order to maximise the income for that, what we do is we actually use the living room as a living room come bedroom, sofa, beds, all that kind of stuff. So rather than sleeping 4, you can sleep 6.
Perfect.
And people that are coming for short stays, they want value for money. They want to be able to travel into London, do their sightseeing, and they want value for money. So it's working out pretty well. So for people that I'd say are looking to do, you know, the Airbnb side of things, coastal cities are pretty good. We don't tend to go to coastal cities as such ourselves, but we do things that are really close to stations that you can sort of get into London within half an hour. One location that nobody's thought would work was Grove Park. It's perfect. It's working. It's booming. Although it's in a block of flats, only a 2-story building, but it's pretty much 70% occupancy is our going. I mean, we've had 2 months at 90%, and obviously summer months it gets busier. And the other one we've got is in New Cross and one in Fulham. We thought Fulham was going to be the best performing, but it's bottom of the pile, which is quite unusual. But New Cross is right next to the station as well, and people just love to leave their belongings. It's a pad for them to sleep in at the end of the day.
Yeah, and so the first one you bought, right? That's what
Correct.
Because some of the others are rent to rent, effectively.
Correct. Yeah.
But
So
the first one you purchased,
and that's the one in Grove Park.
do you want some free money?
Do I want some free money? Always. Who doesn't?
All right. Cool. Have you claimed your capital allowances on that building?
No.
No. How much was the purchase price?
$215 we paid for it when we first bought it.
$215. So on average, because you've taken, was it just a residential property before?
It was somebody else's buy to let. Yeah. It wasn't commercial.
Because you've taken what would have been previously classed as or deemed as a non-qualifying asset and converted to a qualifying asset, because now, for accounting purposes, a furnished holiday let, you can now claim capital allowances on against the purchase cost, against other costs within the. You say you did a bit of refurb as well.
Full refurb.
Refurb costs as well.
Full refurb.
So usually you can look at about 20 to 25% of the purchase price of the building. So let's make my maths easy, and
Just basically 200, for example.
Yeah, let's call it 50 grand. So about 50 grand's worth of capital allowances. Now, in order to claim that, you need to instruct a capital. I'll give you a guy, a capital allowances surveyor. They create a report on the property.
Perfect.
And they will give that report to your accountant, who will then apply that. Say it's like a tax voucher. It's like saying
That sounds good to me.
next 50 grand in this company you can earn for free.
And that's bought in the limited company as well.
Because you've done it in a limited company, right? So you're going to offset that against your corporation tax, whether it's 19 or 25, depending on what that company's turning. But effectively, that's then going to save you, I don't know, at least say £8,500. And usually they'll charge a fee based on what they find you.
The savings.
Maybe 4% on the savings. So 95% of people don't claim their capital because they just don't realise.
We're one of those people, but
and property accountants, general accountants often won't really know.
No.
So you need to go to capital allowances specialists. But it's one of the things that we help people with a lot. It's like, oh, you've got furnished holiday lets or service accommodation, great. Have you claimed capital allowances? And they said, no. What's that? Did my accountant do it? No, he probably didn't. Or she probably didn't. But yeah, so that's some free money. So don't forget.
Brilliant.
When you cash.
I'll take those details with you. I'll take those details and give you a kickback once it's all done.
But no, that's good stuff. And so now you're effectively going down the rent to rent route. Then, so do you put what sort of agreement? Do you have like long term agreements or?
You know what? Well, with the so basically the landlords that are on board with us, they're like long term clients of ours. So we just have a management agreement with them.
Yeah.
That sort of rolls on yearly. So they're flexible with us, and then obviously our own one, we don't have any agreements because it's our own place. So
yeah, it's just such a massive advantage because you are in this game. You've got so many contacts, you've got so many access to many. Because you said earlier, how many properties?
334.
That's a phenomenal amount of property.
Yeah.
Like, so there's so much. I guess you're just looking at ways you can use your existing
portfolio, literally,
and generate more from it, which is.
So now when renewals come up, basically, we speak to landlords and say to them, look, we've got this new strategy that we're doing. This is what it entails. This is the perks and benefits that we'll have for you. Ball's in your court. The renewal's due in 2 months. You decide what you'd like to do. We give them 2 options, either the management side where we sort of give them the guaranteed rent, which might be slightly less than what the market value is or just at market value, and then with the potential of getting the bonus. Or we say to them, look, we'll do the whole management. We'll charge you a management fee for doing it, and whether it hits that number or not, we're going to charge you a management fee, and then you get the rest of it, basically.
Brilliant. Have you thought about doing rent-to-rent HMO with some of them? Because you've probably got some suitable properties.
We haven't explored that avenue yet. We've got 2 HMOs that we sort of got on the rent-to-rent side of things ourselves as well, and that we've had for nearly 4 years, maybe nearly 5 years now. So they're coming up for renewal soon. But we haven't done any of those on the SA side of things. Yeah. So it could be an avenue that we explore. I mean, you tell me, is it lucrative? Is it worthwhile? Much more
if you don't want, let's have a talk.
Yeah, definitely.
If you've got a lot of people with a lot of property that you're managing for them, then for me, I'd love the opportunity to get involved on the HMO front, but obviously, or to help you to get them running. But yeah, I mean, your landlord's in a great position because you're giving them guaranteed rent every single month. That's what they want. You're not giving them no stress. They get a peace of mind. But you're generating additional cash flow and creating additional housing.
Would you say it's worthwhile to do a couple of the rooms? If let's say, for example, we've got a 5 or 6 bed HMO, half of them are coming out, and 3 of the rooms are basically coming available. Would you go and do service accommodation in 3 of the rooms and let the rest of them stay there, or would you say do the whole building?
Yeah, it's difficult, and I get that question a few times. Personally, I think don't mix it because it's somebody's home, like it's home. So I don't know. I always think, but then this is probably the wrong way to look at it. I wouldn't like it. But people sometimes think I wouldn't like it. But then the first time I started looking at HMOs, I sort of steered away from it a bit because it's like. But I wouldn't like it. But someone said it's not about what you like. So I guess you could explore it. It's whether or not your tenants are going to be happy with that, I guess. But if they're not, I suppose
they'll leave
and then you can move on with the rest of them.
No, I mean, we try to be as fair as possible to everyone, and most of our tenants in the HMOs have been there since the very beginning. So I wouldn't do that to them. It's more so just of a question of, some landlords who have got HMOs that have high turnaround, maybe 6 or 12 months turnaround, then they may want for people to turn into this service accommodation route. But makes sense. You've dropped some serious knowledge today, Steve. I mean, you taught me something that I didn't know.
Mate,
before we wrap it up, tell us a little bit about your property education side of things, because I want the audience to hear about the coaching and mentoring that you do. I mean, look, like I said, you've taught me something that I didn't know about. The capital gains reclaimants that we could do and savings on that side of things. So tell us a bit about the company that you have on run.
Yeah, sure. So I'm lead trainer at Touchstone Education, which is one of the largest property training companies or organisations in the UK. And what we do is quite diverse. So we help people with anything from utilising their pension to invest in commercial property, making people more tax efficient, service accommodation, HMOs, flips, and all different. We educate on all different strategies. We've got a lot of people within our sort of mentorship program. I've been coaching for over 10 years. When I left my job in the fire brigade sort of 12 years ago, and I got really into the property side of things, it just became a natural progression. But I'm also big on the mindset front as well. As you know, you referenced the book that I wrote. But yeah, so what we do is we educate people in property, but we also give them the support and accountability, because you can have all of the knowledge, but knowledge isn't power. Everyone goes, knowledge is power. Knowledge only becomes powerful when you actually go and apply it.
Implementation.
Until then, it's just potential. So our job is not just to give you the knowledge and the information, but to help you with the actual implementation, to go out and put that stuff into practice. So and that's what lights me up. That's what I love doing. It keeps me sharp because it surrounds me with other investors. It keeps my network good, and your network is your net worth, as we know. And it just keeps me striving as well, because everyone's pushing it. It's about community. It's about
you're pushing them, they're pushing you. You want to get to the next level.
Everyone's inspiring each other, and that's what it's about. Sort of good positive energy and helping each other to win.
Brilliant. Well, look, Steve, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming. Again, guys, look, you've heard it all here. Stephen Doran, ex-firefighter, property guru now, I'd say, you know, coaching people, helping them in a different way to how he was helping them before. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Share away. And like I said, most of you aren't subscribed to the channel but watch the video. So if you want to be kept up to date on the next videos that we have, you need to click that subscribe button. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.